Former Presidents Obama and George W. Bush and U2's Bono are saying goodbye to USAID. The unlikely trio teamed up via teleconference Monday to talk to employees on USAID's last day of operations. And the former presidents, in a rare move, rebuked Trump's decision to shutter the agency.
It all comes as Secretary of State Marco Rubio officially announced yesterday that the foreign aid arm has ceased operations. The agency experienced a rapid dismantling since President Trump's return to the White House, and massively in part thanks to the help of DOJ. Rubio writes on X, "The era of government-sanctioned inefficiency is over. From now on, our foreign assistance programs will be accountable to the American taxpayer."
The shuttering of USAID is expected to lead to the deaths of millions around the world, according to a recent Time article. Former US Ambassador to Russia, Michael McFaul, says, quote, "The destruction of USAID will go down in history as one of America's most significant foreign policy mistakes. We have no chance of competing with the Communist Party of China without instruments of influence like USAID. Hope our next president reverses this decision quickly." So you graciously let me rant about the Paramount decision earlier on. I'm sure that this will be the other topic we perhaps disagree fairly vigorously on, but why don't you tell me why you support this or whatever?
Yeah, so I think the most important thing to understand is that this is not a complete shuttering of all of the programs that USAID administers. They've cut about 80% of them, and the remaining 20%, most of which are these direct aid programs that are being cited as potentially leading to loss of life, are being re-administered under the purview of the State Department. The concern was that USAID was operating too independently, was not accountable to the taxpayer, which led to NGOs basically operating as slush funds for members of the administration who were unelected bureaucrats. So they want it directly under the State Department so that Marco Rubio, or whoever the Secretary of State is, has more direct purview. But I think broadly, a lot of people's concerns about USAID is that the so-called soft power mechanism is not just feeding hungry people in Africa, but also engaging in a lot of quite nefarious and pernicious campaigns to help orchestrate division in other countries. Gray Zone News did an interesting release on a set of documents about a USAID-backed, effectively, coup in Bangladesh, where USAID and the State Department, by extension, had identified that the Bangladeshi Prime Minister was not friendly to the idea of the U.S. building a military base in Bangladesh. Instead of trying to convince her or offering her something in return, they decided that she needed to be removed. USAID found out that there was an active group of LGBTQ plus activists in Bangladesh who also really liked rap music. So they spent American taxpayer money creating anti-government rap songs targeted towards LGBTQ individuals in Bangladesh for the purpose of overthrowing that regime. I think most sane people would agree that that's not a judicious use of our taxpayer dollars, and also not the best way that we should be conducting foreign policy. And that's not the type of soft power that I want to see America engaging in. So I've already ranted long enough. I have plenty more to say, but I will let you respond.
So you used the word judicious there, and I think that that is important both in terms of spending, but also in terms of cutting. Now, the instance that you cited in Bangladesh is not one that I'm familiar with the specifics of. I take the point that USAID is involved, or has previously been involved, in things that are under the rubric of governance and democracy. And those things can, I think, be useful and can also be shady and can be about political interference. Where I have the problem with the lack of judiciousness in the cutting, though, is, remember, the total USAID budget is about $40 billion. So it's about 1/3 of 1% of the federal budget. And there is plainly money spent there that is being very well spent and is projected not to survive in many of these instances. Now, we cited one of the other examples of the Time report forecasting millions of deaths and all of that. I don't know exactly how that projection was arrived at. But let me just read from the Washington Post this past weekend, who were in Sudan. And they spoke to a dozen more than 24 Washington Post interviews with civilians, clinicians, and aid officials in the capital, Khartoum, and surrounding villages. And they found that while the Trump administration's cuts to USAID have been felt across the world, their impact in Sudan was especially deadly. When US-supported soup kitchens were forced to close, babies starved quietly, their mother said, while other siblings died begging for food. Funding stoppages meant that critical medical supplies were never delivered, doctors said. The lack of US-funded disease response teams has made it harder to contain cholera outbreaks, which are already claiming the lives of those weakened by hunger. Even in addition to that, we had the sweeping axing of all the money that was so sudden that actually food aid was trapped at ports and things, rotting there, doing nobody any good, because there was, in my view, far too crude an approach to it.
I agree it could have been executed better, but I also think that there has to be a limiting principle on what exactly around the world the United States is responsible for, and to what extent does USAID handouts actually prevent countries from becoming self-sufficient. One of the things that Marco Rubio cited in his Substack about the ending of the USAID program as we currently conceive of it is that countries that he has been talking to about this don't want constant aid. They want trade relations. They want the ability to export and import goods. They want the ability to have economic development. And he pointed out, in response to Michael Maffal's China point, saying we were ceding the ground to China, he points out that after more than $89 billion invested in the Middle East and North Africa, the U.S. still has lower favorability ratings than China in every nation but Morocco. So if this is supposed to be the soft power regime that is increasing the U.S.'s standing around the world, why aren't we seeing results?
I think that's a logical fallacy, but I'm told we're out of time. So we'll return to logical fallacies some other time.
We can always talk about it tomorrow. That's going to do it for us on Rising Live. Look out for more exclusive YouTube content coming your way today. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to The Hill's YouTube channel so you never miss any content. And for those of you who like to listen while on the go, we are now available anywhere you listen to podcasts.